One of the best parts of being part of this collective is when we get to hear from our media partners.
To help us explore more on all the incredible ways we can use AI, please welcome to the stage for the second year, Will Cady, Reddit's Global Brand Ambassador.
Thank you. My name is Will Cady, as we know, and I am a musician. At least that's the identity that I really subscribe to. When at 11 years old, my dad drove me 8 hours to the New York State Fair to see the Wallflowers live in concert. He was really excited to toss me into the front seat of his old hippie van and toss a crate full of cassette tapes in the back. This was like a moment of initiation for the old man. And as we were driving across that landscape, he would have me kind of fish around in the back while he kept his eyes relatively on the road and pull up whatever mixtape I could find. And all of them, they had this swirly handwriting of his that he had made from back in college when he was using his cassette recorder to find songs on the radio that he wanted to make his mixtapes off of, or perfectly timing a needle drop on a vinyl record to be able to put this mixtape together. And now, decades later, he was in this car with his son, teaching him about Jethro Tull, or Fleetwood Mac, or King Crimson, or Jimi Hendrix, Bob Dylan, which was appropriate because we were going to see Bob Dylan's son, Jacob Dylan, and the Wallflowers perform in this concert for a first time. It was enchanting. I was learning about something that was new to me, the culture and the creation of music. But the real moment was in the concert itself. About halfway through, all of the lights went down, and then this one spotlight came down from the top, and it shined on the organist, the keyboard player, and he just had one hand on the piano and the other hand just sticking straight up into the air. And they were covering a song by The Who called "Won't Get Fooled Again." And if anybody knows that song, it's this absolutely enormous, just vibrating, pulsing vortex of a sound that just like swept around the entire arena. And little old me, it just absolutely melted my face off. It was over. I had never seen or felt or experienced anything like that before. And on the car ride back, I just remember like cranking the window down and like smelling the fresh air, putting my hand out and riding the wind and feeling like I had become something new. I had become a musician, even though I didn't know how to play yet. I had become a creator. And so when we got back home, my mom and my dad, they're like, we got to help the kid out. And they got me something, got me a guitar, a bass guitar to be specific. And I got together with my friends. We put together a band. We started reaching for that stage where that spotlight was. We wanted to get close to that. We wanted to get to that feeling of creativity that had enchanted each of us in our own ways. My parents, they also gave me a couple of other things when I turned 16. I was privileged to be given a car and a phone and a guitar. And they all had a very specific purpose. The guitar was something that I could use to express myself. The car gave me the power to experience the world the way that we did when we drove across the Northeast. The phone was a way, gave me the power to connect. And it strikes me that today, when a teenager has a device put in their hands, they're given all three of those at the same time, right? They're given the ability to express, given the ability to connect, given the ability to experience the world. But when my parents gave me the car and the guitar, they required me to take lessons. I had to learn. They were like, this is a responsibility. This stuff is going to change your life. So you got to take it seriously. It's a gift and it's a responsibility. There aren't too many places, honestly, other than where we are today, SGCC, where we learn that there's a gift and a responsibility that comes with that in these devices that we hold in our hands. This is very different. This is very new from the technology of what my father created with those mixed cassette tapes back in his college dorm room. Very different from the kind of rock band dream that I was looking toward when I was 13. And when I was 18, I went to Boston. I went to the Berklee College of Music to start to really take this career, seriously, put it into motion. And there were changes that were happening at that time. Boston, just a couple of blocks away from my dorm room, Napster was formed. Completely, utterly changed the way music is shared and discovered online. Across the river from my dorm, Companies like Facebook and Reddit were being built in dorm rooms and apartments. Things were changing. The spotlight was shifting from the stage to the screen, and it was affecting the reality of the dream that I wanted to step into. It scared me. It made me angry. It made me confused. I didn't really know what was happening, and neither did my teachers. Technology was shaking things up, but as the ground started to give way underneath me, the sky opened up too. I didn't really know what was going on, but I would put music videos on YouTube and they would front page on Reddit, and hundreds of thousands of people would be listening to me all of a sudden. I would post silly things on Twitter and they'd be talking about them on the news in 50 states. I didn't understand this incredible new thing that was happening, that was coming. And so I did what a good creator does, and I went towards what is interesting. I ended up doing something that I didn't expect that I would do at all. I started working. I got a job at a technology company. And that technology company is still, it's Reddit. Been there for the better part of 10 years at this point. And I think that the reason that I chose that place, or that place chose me, is because it has this value, remember the human. It's written in glowing letters on the walls in the HQ. And that was really interesting to me because I am not a technologist. I'm a creator. I don't know how to code, but I know how to make sounds, right? I know how to create. I know how to live a story. I know how to express it. And so I went from building bands to building teams. A new identity was formed. I came from being a musician to becoming a businessman. This is something that was very different and was very unexpected, but through that process, I learned how culture is made. I learned how creativity works in an economy that now we call the creator economy. And on the other side of that journey, I even was able to create a book that I know a lot of you are reading right now. I'm incredibly grateful for that. And it's a book about where creativity comes from, with this idea that our anxieties, the things that excite us, that is really the secret key to unlocking our creativity, right? This is the greatest creative thing that I've ever personally made, and I didn't expect that it would happen when I was on that path to becoming a musician. But it emerged from this dance, this dialogue, this conversation with technology and creativity. And that's what I'm here to talk about today, because we're in a moment right now where things are changing in a very similar way to how it felt like they were changing when I was 18. There's technologies that are emerging. How many people out there, by a show of hands, feel either anxious or excited about the changes AI is bringing? Pretty much all of us, right? Well, I'll raise my hand too. I mean, that's the reality of it, but it's not new. That experience that I had, I'm not that old. I'm decently old, but it wasn't that long ago, right? And it goes back further than that. There was a time where the height of technology and creativity was color. And we can see this on the walls of caves, where people have discovered that they can spray red pigment on the walls. And then they're like, oh, you gotta try the color white, you gotta try the color black, you gotta try them together. And when you look on these walls, you see all of these different hands exploring this fresh idea of playing with color. And it touches me that really at the heart of it is these hands that are on there that are these people that are saying, I was here. I was here exploring the experience of this new thing that emerged. You go to a museum today, and we're still exploring color. You can look at Van Gogh, Monet, Mondrian, Hilma of Klint, right, Rothko. We're still in the conversation about what color means as a technology to us as creatives. The same thing with light. Right? Some people on these caves, they discovered that you can draw lines in a specific way that the flicker of a flame causes these animals to leap and bound around the caves. We have film. We're still exploring what light can do for our creativity. From the wheel to the printing press to the internet, there are new technologies that are constantly emerging that cause the ground to give way beneath our feet and the sky to open up. And it's the humans in between that are the creators that got to figure out, well, what is our role in this? What is the story? What is the story that I'm going to continue to tell? What is the story that people are going to see when they look back? Will they see my hand on the wall? Thousands of years ago, Plato had the good idea to start writing down what this guy Socrates was saying. And he was attempting to describe the world that we live in. And he broke it down into two things, two different sides of it. There is what is becoming, and there is what always is. There are the things that are coming into form, the new ideas, the new expressions, the new forms, and then there's just the eternal experience that abides when you just allow it to be. I think that that is a primer for the difference between technology and creativity, right? The future will always be coming. Technology will always be changing, but the human experience is something that really belongs to us. It's something that really lives inside of our hearts. I mean, we are, in these heads that we have, we're meaning-making machines. When you drop into a moment of silence like that, you listen to the sounds, you allow yourself to breathe and be in the rhythm of a moment. There's a feeling of that moment, and your mind is trying to make sense of it. It's creating all of these different stories. It's coming up with all these ideas. The heart doesn't have any ideas. It just feels. It just experiences. It doesn't try to explain. And that's what's amazing and truly new about AI is it's another mind. But it's another mind that still needs a human heart. It still needs something to give it direction, to give it feeling, to give it experience, to give it purpose. And even better, it's an extra set of hands. It can make for us. But even though it can make, even though it can think, even though it can explain, the feeling of dropping into the silence of a moment of right now is something that it cannot touch. That's why the opening words to my book are walk the path from out of your head and into your heart and find your voice in between. Because we creatives, we have a job to do. We have a job to do with technology. It's to live. Live to tell the story, right? I remember being in that car with my dad, and I was just feeling it so much, I decided to ask him as he was like showing me the world. I was like, what do you think the meaning of life is? He said, pass it on. Pass it on. That's what I'm doing to you right now. I'm passing it on. And that's something that you as creators can do. This moment, experience it as deeply as you can so you can express it as deeply as it can. Because this moment is never going to come again. Just like that moment when I went to Boston and the internet changed. Just like that moment that I went to my first live concert and my life changed. The conditions of this exact circumstance here at SGCC in Dallas in 2024 are never going to come again. So how deeply can you experience that? That's the question I want to leave you with.